and welcome to the video. I'm Teresa Abram, the Communications Chair for the American Handwriting Analysis Foundation. And with me today is the wonderful Sheila Lowe, who you'll know as our president of the American Handwriting Analysis Foundation for the last 10 years. Sheila is also a qualified handwriting expert and testifies in court, and she is also a best-selling author. So welcome, Sheila. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Thank you so very much. I'm excited too. You are part of my hope for the future of this organization.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's exactly what's happening right now. I'm so happy that I can talk with you right now and really mark this moment in time, because you've been our president for 10 years. And you have done so much amazing things with this organization during that time. And I think it's a really great time to be able to look back over your history and the career that you've had. So if you want to get started, I'm ready to dive right in.
I'm ready.
Okay, sure. Let's do this. It's a long period of time before you ever became our president that you were actually associated with AHAF.
Yes, I joined in 1977.
So from 77 till you became our president in
2012.
In 2012.
Don't ask me to do math.
I don't know. A long time, though.
A long time.
Yeah. So during that time, what did it look like? Did you have other roles that you took?
I did. In 1985, I think it was, I became the newsletter editor, and I was in that position for 8 years. And then after that, I was on the certification committee, and I was a chapter president, so I was pretty active for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like that there's different roles that you can do. And you said that you were the editor for 8 years.
Yes.
And yet you're editor again.
Yeah, I became the editor again because something happened where I got fired from my job as editor, after which I decided that I would start my own newsletter. And it was to be a little different in that, obviously the AHAF Journal, which it was called at the time, was focused on the members and announcing certification and chapter news and all that. So I thought I would focus on serious students and professionals and see if we could help them with marketing and psychology and, of course, handwriting. And so my focus was just a little bit different.
And is that when you created the Vanguard?
Yes. Ruth Holmes was the one who came up with the name, the Vanguard, and it seemed to fit. So the Vanguard, news for the serious, like I said, serious students and the handwriting professional. And so, yes, I've been publishing it nonstop since 1992.
Wow. And that is one of the best resources that we have still. It's still timely. It's still relevant. It's a vital part of our organization.
Yeah, well, actually, I should say I started it, now that I'm thinking back, I started it for AHAF, and it was going to be for the certified members only to help them with their professionalism. Then I got fired shortly thereafter, and so I took it back and made it my own.
So let's talk about that, Sheila, because that's, it's interesting to think that you got fired from a position like that.
After 8 years.
After 8 years. Yeah, after 8 years, and then you get fired from a position. So let's maybe, are you okay if we talk a little bit about what happened? What was it that prompted that?
I had a series running for a long time. It was featuring different well-known professionals in the field. And it was, a profile. And so I would have their picture and I'd write something about their background. And then I would have them put their signature and write something if they would. And this particular person was a very well-known author and graphologist, Cheryl Solomon, who is a good friend of mine. And she wrote a wonderful book about children's handwriting, and she'd written some other books. So she signed her little signature the way she always does. Her signature plus a phrase. And when I looked at it, I was kind of taken aback because she had written what she told me was luck and such. but when you look at it, it looks like something quite different. And so I said to her, "Are you sure this is what you want me to publish?" And she said, "Yes, that's what I write. That's what it says, luck and such." And so I did. And some people on the board took great offense at it.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So I think we definitely have to share what this little tidbit looked like so that people can fill in the blanks of what could it possibly have been.
Yes.
But before we do that, Sheila, what I really appreciate about that story and you sharing it is the fact that, different people have different ideas and react differently.
Sure.
You had checked with the person who was directly involved and she was okay with it, and outside of your control was the reaction of others.
Yes.
You can't predict
Always
that.
true. Always. Yes.
It is. Yeah, especially in an organization where we all have a common goal. We all believe in handwriting analysis, but we're all coming from very different backgrounds. And
Yes.
it can be tricky. So before we go any further, let's maybe take a look at what this lady wrote before she put her signature. This is what caused the controversy right here.
Mm-hmm.
And
it says luck and such. How we perceive it may be different, but
yes.
She wrote luck and such.
Yeah.
Now, she has written a book on sex. We know there's a lot of symbols in handwriting, but the fact is, that's what she wrote, and that's what she normally wrote. It's not. She didn't just make it up for the newsletter. She always wrote that.
Yeah. That particular phrase looks a little bit different from what she intended.
It does. It got me fired.
That's right. Well, it's not going to get you fired this time.
No.
Hopefully it doesn't get me fired.
Oh, no. I'm sure it won't.
It's kind of fun. So, part of this, Sheila, is we are moving into this time of transition, a time of change. It can be difficult for people navigating change and accepting it. What advice would you offer to people?
Well, change is hard, and that's what I wrote my editorial on in the latest newsletter, and so I hope everybody will read it. But I think change is really hard for me, all kinds of change, and I need time to adjust, and I think that the most important thing is just to be open and to recognize that if you don't change, you stagnate. And that's just true of everything. You get in a rut, even if you're really good at what you do. It's just, change needs to happen. It just needs to be positive change.
Yeah, that's the trick of the positive change. How do you navigate it and be positive about it? Any insights into that?
By being open, open those loops.
Yeah, get those loops open.
I have narrow loops with wide spaces in between them. I need to open them more.
Yeah.
Move forward.
Yes, that's right. We are living beings, and just like every other living being, change is going to happen.
It's going to, whether we want it to or not. And because I am so focused on my other career of writing books at this point, I felt myself not giving AHAF as much attention as I always had. And I said, I can't do that. I can't be a half-time president. I mean, it's not a paid position. It's volunteer. We are all volunteers. But, if you're not doing a full job, it's time to step away.
Yeah. So, something that comes to my mind as well when you're talking about being open, I think that can be difficult sometimes to even understand, what does being open mean? And I'm just thinking, with that signature that you shared of how it's like you saw it one way and she was totally okay, but then there was other people who thought of it as something else. And there was, some tension that was created out of that. And I feel like part of this would almost be too, that there's two sides to every story.
True.
Make sure you're talking. Or more. Yeah. Well, actually, as many people as involved, that's how many sides there are. And being open, I think a part of that is make sure you're communicating with others.
Definitely. That's important. I probably should have put it to the board and ask them first. I don't know, but I've always been very independent as an editor. Nobody has told me what to put in the newsletter. So I just didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yet you're absolutely right. Everybody's going to have their own filter that they see things. And the main person who was upset about it happened to be a military man, a former military man. And so he had very hard and set rules for how things should be. And that just, sort of fomented dissension.
Yeah, which is so unfortunate, isn't it? What prompted you to take the presidency? You'd been involved in it from 1977. What prompted you to actually say, okay, I'll step up and be president now?
Well, after this incident that we just talked about of my getting fired, I was very angry and hurt. And I stepped away from being active in the organization for a very long time and focused on the Vanguard newsletter. And I produced 5 conferences of the Vanguard that were very successful. And that was up to about 2000. And that was at the time when my daughter was killed. And I don't know, I just started pulling back from doing those things. And, the Tucson chapter of AHAF had been handling the board, all of the board duties for quite a long time, by 2011, 2012. And so they were getting tired, and they were the different positions were being handled. They were kind of rotating them. But I went to a conference in Tucson, and I just suddenly occurred to me, why don't I do it? It's time for an election, and they're tired. What's stopping me from running for the presidency? It was a matter of deciding I'm going to be the president.
Right. Right. And it sounds like the underlying thought there, which is often the start of many great adventures, is why not?
Yes. And that phrase happened to be one that was very important to me from my teenage years. My first husband is Black. And back in 1967, 68, when we were going out together, that was not done. Even in California, it was, people looked at us funny and said things. And we used to write poetry together. And that was our phrase, why not? Why shouldn't we be together? So it's the same thing here. It's like, yeah, why not? What excuse do I have? I've been using the resources of this organization for all these years. It's time to give something back. And then Linda Larson, who had always been active too, agreed to be my vice president, as long as she would never had to be president. But she's always, she's the only one that's still on the board now that started out with me, or one of the very few.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. That's neat. So that you said, okay, no problem. You'll never be president. And carried on for 10 years together. Has she always been your vice president throughout the entire 10 years?
She has.
Cool.
Yeah, we've had different secretaries and treasurers. That's the executive board. And in the full board, the cabinet, Jane Yank has always been there, and some others, and many have come and gone.
Right. That's cool. Okay. So in 2012, and you took the reins and started working with everything, and you still maintain the Vanguard, which for people, watching this and listening, the Vanguard is a perk of being a member of AHAF. So when you become a member of AHAF, you automatically get that. It comes out quarterly. If you're interested in just getting the Vanguard, it is a $25 subscription fee that you can contact Sheila directly about and be added to the list. As you've been president, I think one of the things and one of the concerns that you've had is that members come and members go.
When I became president, our membership was way down. And we identified that it was because people were not getting a notice of renewal. It might be published in the newsletter, I don't know. But they were just expecting people to renew automatically, and people don't do that. So we started sending out invoices, and people started renewing. The other thing was when the president before me, Deb Petty, the year before I became president, asked me if I would do the newsletter. And I said, well, I already do this newsletter, but I'd be happy to license it to you. So we came up with an arrangement. And all of my nearly all, 90% of my subscribers joined AHAF. I talked them into it, twisted their arms, and they were happy because they got all kinds of benefits. So we had a big influx in the beginning. Not all of them stayed. Some people retired. Some people have died. Some lost interest. But 300 people is a lot. And we've continued to increase the resources, free resources for members. And what we found lately is that quite a few people have joined, helped themselves to all the resources, downloaded all the stuff, and then didn't renew. So it's just an ongoing puzzle to me about what we could do to make people feel a loyalty to the organization and to stay and support it.
Mm-hmm. And that is such a good question. I know that, as the being part of the board, that's part of what we look at is putting processes in place so that we can start to understand what is the reason that people stay or that they leave.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's something that you might still be interested in, even once you step down and become our immediate past president.
Yes, as if I didn't have enough to do.
Right? So true. So true. Yeah. And, there are things that we're, as an organization, doing where we're, offering scholarships. We have student discounts. And, I think all of us, and I include you in this, Sheila, and if I am speaking on your behalf erroneously, please let me know. But I think all of us would like to know what would increase your engagement with the organization.
Definitely. And see, that's why you are such a good person in this job, because you use terms like engagement, which is a modern, a thing that younger people understand. That's another reason why it's important for this change, because, I'm getting old and you're young and, well, certainly compared to me, you're the age of my kids. And so, the jargon, what attracts people. And even though it's ironic because, it's a handwriting, but you're good with electronics and this kind of, podcasts and things like that. And we need to keep up with the times.
We do, for sure. And I think that there's so much fascinating stuff to share. So it's going to be exciting moving forward, for sure.
Definitely.
So what was something that, was it smooth sailing when you first became president? Did you step into it and it was like, sweet all the way?
Well, I had a terrific board, and I always have had. So that helped, and they did a lot of work. We've gotten a lot accomplished. But there was one thing that I wanted to do that never got done, and yet I'm hoping it will now. I wanted to establish a professionalism committee that would be, well, let me step back and say, I felt like we would get better acceptance from psychologists, which is important, if we did the same thing, spoke their jargon and did things the way that they like them done. And so I wanted to form a committee of our psychologists, and we have probably at least 10 in our membership. And so I tried to form that committee. I appointed someone who was very good, but her practice was burgeoning and she didn't have the time to keep it up.
Oh.
Later, I turned it over to someone else, and then that didn't work either. So now, though, we have a member who is talking about doing just that.
Exciting.
So that's good. But let me say that one of, or the most successful committee, perhaps, is the Campaign for Cursive, which we started not long after my presidency. Started here in the Los Angeles chapter with an idea from Kathleen Dickinson. And it just sort of took off from there. Gaina Scott had it for many years and just really ran with it. And now Lauren Mooney Bear, who's going to be she is our president-elect. So we do have some very big successes.
Oh, definitely we do. So did the Campaign for Cursive, did that also start with a why not question?
Well, in a sense, I guess, because I was shocked to learn. This was 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. I was shocked when I found out that the Common Core curriculum had in 2009 removed the requirement to teach cursive writing. And we found that out from Etta Manley, who attended a conference and learned about this. And so we said, yeah, we've got to do something about this. And yes, why not us? We care about handwriting. If we don't keep handwriting in the curriculum, what good is a handwriting analysis organization?
Mm-hmm.
So we've partially changed our focus to help in that area.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And we have had big success with that over the years as well. It is coming back into curriculums.
Yes, at least in my informal survey, 26 states now have at least some form of requirements. Whether it's being enforced or not is another question.
Mm-hmm.
The requirements are there.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And there is still people that are actively campaigning for it to be brought back in the rest of the states as well.
Yes, we've gotten involved in legislation and all kinds of stuff, and we have our annual cursive competition.
That's awesome. Cool. That's very neat that was brought in as well. And thank you for sharing what didn't go so smoothly as well. I think that's really important to keep in perspective, right? It's like some ideas are going to work and some don't, but until we try it.
Yeah, sometimes you have to wait for its time to come.
That's right. It takes time. You plant the seed and then you wait.
That's it.
Yeah. So I love the balance there. So thank you for sharing that.
Balance. Yes. Balance is everything.
Mm-hmm. It is. So you are going to become our immediate past president. What plans do you have for that role?
Well, it's a supportive role. It's advisory. So, if Lauren needs my support or has questions, or I'll be there. And of course, I'll also still be the newsletter editor. And along with Tricia Clapp, I handle the website. So I will be plenty busy.
Mm-hmm. So you're still here. You're still involved. You're not.
Yes. I'm not going anywhere.
That's right.
Not that I know of.
You're just going to be there like a past president, perhaps. One of the good ones.
Yes, like Jimmy Carter.
Like Jimmy Carter, exactly.
I say he's the best ex-president ever.
Yeah, right. He does so much good and still stays so active on so many levels. So cool.
And I always loved his handwriting.
Oh, I don't have a sample of that one. Do we want to take a quick look at, do you have a sample of it, Sheila?
Sure. I'm sure I do. I mean, I know.
Let's take a look. All right. So tell me what it is that you love about Jimmy Carter's writing when you look at this.
Well, it's so smart. It's got all the primary indicators for intelligence. It's simplified. It has good spacing. Well, it's got a little extra wide spacing. It's moving to the right. It's quite dynamic. It doesn't really look like what we think of him as being sort of slow and measured, but it's got that too. Mm-hmm. So, he can get down to the bottom line really quickly. His signature is completely congruent with the rest of his writing. And I don't know when this sample was written, but, it's what you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. So when you look at it and you're saying like, this is one of your favorite handwriting samples, does it also have your favorite indicator? I love to ask, handwriting analysts, what's your favorite indicator? Is there something that you love to see in handwriting? Does this have anything like that for you?
Well, as a Gestalt graphologist, it's hard for me to pick out any one thing. I just look at it as the whole picture and I see it all works together. It's got good overall balance. It has a good Gestalt.
There's that word again, that balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the important part with that too, Sheila, just to mention is the idea that it's not perfect.
No, if it was perfect, it wouldn't have a good Gestalt.
That's right.
Because only machines can be perfect. And we're not machines.
No, we sure are not, thankfully.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, thank you for sharing that writing, Sheila.
Sure.
All right. Well, so you're going to step back. You're going to still be present within the organization, but just in a different kind of role. And what else? What else do you envision for your life in general once you step back from being a president?
Well, most these days, most of my career in handwriting is in document examination. And of course, I do still do some graphology, but I would really, really love to retire as a document examiner and make my living writing my fiction series. I have 2 series now. Plus, of course, I write nonfiction about handwriting.
Yeah, you definitely. Your book, your Reading Between the Lines, is an excellent introductory and even takes you a little bit further. It's not just introductory, it is a really solid beginning for any person who's interested in handwriting analysis. And then you have 2 fiction series. Claudia Rose is a handwriting analyst.
Yeah, readers often tell me that they learn a lot about handwriting from reading the books, and then they want to know more about handwriting analysis. And after that, Reading Between the Lines, Decoding Handwriting is a subtitle. Then there's Advanced Studies in Handwriting Psychology and a couple of others. But the one I'm working on now is not in the Claudia Rose series. There's 8 books in that series. But this one is the Beyond the Veil series. It's paranormal suspense. And I'm just working on the 3rd book, which is called The Last Door.
Oh, intriguing. And does that one have any handwriting analysis in it?
No, it doesn't.
Well, that is awesome. Well, I wish you continued success. And I know that, you're going to still stay present. And I'm ever so grateful to have got to know you, Sheila. And
Likewise.
So grateful that you have put so much time and energy into this organization and kept it going alive and vital. So thank you for that.
Well, I thank my whole board, including you, for all the work that they've done and made it successful.
Yeah. Thank you.